Welcome everyone to our Survive and Thrive Digital Dives 12 Tuesdays. I'm Rachel Perkins, the Education and Outreach Specialist for Texas Oncology Foundation. And if you're a cancer patient, caregiver, or professional and want to educate yourself about the cancer realm, we invite you to subscribe and join us every Tuesday. We actually only have 2 weeks left, so this week and then next week. So we have almost finished our 12 Tuesdays. We're so glad to have you all with us today, and we're excited to hear from Tamika Felder, our very own Tamika Felder, and she's going to be doing her 13 Reasons Why presentation for us today. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with a little bit of a foundation intro, do some housekeeping, and then we'll hear from Tamika. So if you haven't heard, the Texas Oncology Foundation is dedicated to providing support to cancer patients in the communities where they live, work, and receive treatment. Through Survive and Thrive programming, the Foundation can provide educational events and resources to help build community connections and support all affected by cancer. So we love providing educational events, much like this one, and also future events like virtual experience and our conference. Now I have the pleasure of introducing Tamika Felder. She will be doing her presentation with us today. Tamika, I'll go ahead and share my screen if you want to go ahead and take it away.
Sure. Thank you so much, Rachel. I'm always happy to be here with you all. This is literally just the foundation holds a very special place in my heart. So you see this photo. I am not glammed up tonight, and I hope that's okay. It's just an evening of us all together, and this is surviving to thrive. And so next slide, please. I just want to give a few acknowledgments to some people who are no longer with us, who've greatly impacted my life. Henrietta Lacks, who was a cervical cancer survivor, also known as the HeLa cells. And if you're not familiar with HeLa, you should definitely Google it. Dr. LaSalle Lafall, who I met in the great state of Texas in Austin in 2003, when I represented the state of Maryland at the cancer panel. He and Lance Armstrong were the co-chairs. And I remember through tears, it was my first time being around other cancer survivors, adolescent and young adult cancer survivors. And he told me, I said, somebody needs to do something. And he was like, you should do something. And great impact in the reason why I share my story. And Dr. Edith Mitchell, who passed away earlier this year, who truly was a pioneer when it came to clinical trials and health equity. So I just wanted to take a moment to honor these giants. Next slide. So who am I and why am I talking to you all? You're like, why is she here? And if you've heard me speak before, if we've met, it's okay to put that in the chat too. Let me know if this is your first time hearing me or if you're no stranger to my story. So I grew up in South Carolina, and even though in that arrow, there's a lot that has changed between that time, but the one thing that it hasn't changed, I'm still running this mouth. I'm still talking. And there was a time when it felt like cancer silenced me and I didn't have a voice. And for people who know me, that's really hard for them unless they were there and they saw it with their own eyes to imagine that anything would shut up the mouth from the South, but cancer did. But I got back to sharing my story, and in the end, cancer didn't win the way that I thought it would. And so I'm still just a girl with a little bit more gray hair, sharing her story, and I'm okay with it because it means that I'm still here. Next slide. 25. I was 25 years old when I was diagnosed with cervical cancer in 2001. And I will tell you, that was such a pivotal time in my life because I thought I was so grown. I had moved from South Carolina to the Washington, D.C. area, and I was working as a television producer, trying to get from behind the camera to the front of it. And life was good. And then cancer came in, and as many of you can relate to, the bottom fell out and everything was just so different for me. And the truth is, when I heard those words, you have cancer, I didn't think, well, I'm going to beat this. I was scared. I thought I was going to die. And I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to move forward. Someone with so much zest for life, right? Um, how could you not move forward But hearing those words, getting that diagnosis is so paralyzing. Tell me in the chat, what was it like for you when you heard those words that you had cancer? Next slide. So for me, having cancer, it's been a journey. Radical hysterectomy, chemotherapy, radiation therapy, loss of fertility, and secondary post-cancer issues. So many people look at me now and they're like, you are living the life after cancer. Things are so great. There's nothing wrong. I think a lot of times as cancer patients, we mask, in some cases, everything that we're going through. And so for me, there are times when I share, if my lymphedema is acting up. I remember I was working out at a gym with some people who I had just met. It was one of these group sessions, and my lymphedema was really bothering me. And my foot was swelling so much I had to untie the laces in my sneakers. And the person in the class said to me, she said, I think you're just using that as an excuse not to work out. I mean, I'm like, I know I'm fat, but like, I'm not using that as an excuse not to work out. Like, this is a real thing that I deal with. And I remember I was shocked, but I wasn't. I was angry, but she just didn't get it. And that's why having a community like this of people who get it just makes it feel so right. Um, because people don't understand. They think when you're done with treatment or you're healed from surgery, that that's it. The journey is over. You made it. You may be a little banged up, a little scarred, but it's over. But we all know that it's not over. Next slide. Um, I heard this song one day and it might play and hopefully it won't be too loud. If not, I'll just read the lyrics. So glad I made it. I made it through in spite of the storm and rain, heartache and pain. I'm still alive declaring I made it through. See, I didn't lose. And I remember hearing these lyrics and the tears just started coming down because sometimes, depending on where you are in your cancer journey, you look back or you smell a smell or you hear something or you feel it and you say, my God, I can't believe I made it through that. And sometimes, and I get so emotional, like right now, I'm feeling it that I made it through. Even when it didn't seem like I was going to make it, I made it. And again, I'm not who I was before cancer. And I'm not someone completely different after cancer, but I'm somewhere in the middle of both of those. Next slide. It's the song now, so you get next slide. So, how many of you can relate to this? Cancer is a gift wrapped in barbed wire. It's not a gift in the shiny bow type of present where I have all these revelations and new thoughts and ideas and a new zest for life. It's a present instead of a bow with a barbed wire that's prickly, that sticks and pokes me. It may bloody me, it may bruise me, but I'm different. And my son is being put to bed. Hopefully you can't hear him. He's crying a little bit. But cancer for me is a gift wrapped in barbed wire. Next slide. And oftentimes we want to know why. I love Dr. David Zuniga and every time he presents for us and we just want to know why me? Why did this happen? And sometimes we don't find that answer. Um, but we have all these thoughts. What did I do wrong? What did I do right? I remember thinking it was because I'm so unhealthy. But then I know someone who got cancer and the name of her blog is, But I Ate So Much Kale. We may never know. And for me, I think I've come to a place where it's not so much about the knowing, it's what I do with how I move forward. Next slide. I'm not going to play this video. Next slide. For me, what I've realized throughout of it was that my why might not necessarily be, what did I do to deserve this? And that's silly, right? To think that cancer got me in some type of way, that I did something to deserve this. But what about if my why was the difference that I was going to make in this space? Next slide. So my why became the organization that I created, the community that I built, being here, doing things like this. And everyone has a different experience with cancer. For me, I got so busy building this that it helped to heal me, because maybe I didn't know the why, but this helped bring things together to make sense. Next slide. And so it just started with building what I didn't have. I didn't have a sense of community. This was in the early 2000s, before social media. They were just doing social media on college campus. So there wasn't a Zoom, there wasn't a way for people to connect like this. But I yearned for something like this. How do I wish desperately that there was somebody hosting something that I could come and listen to and share and gain insight from, and just say, I'm so angry that this happened to me. Next slide. So my creating my organization and creating good was how, what I call, making my survivorship count. Because the truth is, not everybody makes it. And so then sometimes I wonder, how did I make it? Next slide. Oh, I thank you for sharing your why. I'm looking at this. Thank you, Shayna. Thank you. Thank you, Kaz. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all. Thank you for sharing. And this space, it is, if you feel comfortable, share. We'll have time to come together at the end. But for me, when I started sharing my story, there were some truths that happened. And so it meant a few things. And Rachel, you can just pop them on the screen. It meant I had to share what happened to me. I also had to share, next slide, how it made me feel, how it impacted me, what I wanted people to know, and why it would help them, right? But who wanted to hear about what I call my coochie story, all my coochie business? But I just couldn't believe that this happened to me. And when I was 25, I couldn't believe it happened to me at 25. But next year, God willing, I'm going to be 50. And if it happened to me then, I couldn't believe it, because at the end of the day, when I heard those words, you have cancer, I didn't want to die. I wanted to live. I had more living to do. Next slide. And so I've shared my story. I've empowered other people around the world. I've gotten them to tell their story. Next slide. And unfortunately, in doing those work, it means that I meet people who are no longer here. And I remember when I started doing this slide didn't have a lot of people on it. And now I'm going to need an additional slide. And it pains me so. But I remember that I'm here and I can still speak for them. But it's okay that I'm angry about it. It's okay that I get angry. Next slide. So I'm not gonna cuss, because it might be some of y'all who don't want to cuss. Sometimes I cuss. I love Jesus, but I cuss a little bit too. Like some people would say a lot, but I'm working. How many of you have had the experience when somebody says, don't cry, be positive, you got this, right? We've all heard that from very well-meaning people, but I'm sorry, people who've never, ever had chemo coursing through their veins, people who've never had radiation burning their body from the inside out, people who have never had to look for a clinical trial and not be accepted, people who've never felt like their medical team is giving up on them, people who've never felt like there's nothing left for them and this is it. It's okay for you to feel how you feel. Next slide. And don't fight what you feel. You have to give yourself space to grieve what you've lost. For me, it was the loss of my fertility. While I was glad to have my life, I mourned for the loss of my fertility. I mourned for the relationships that changed because of cancer. I mourned for my career that took a hit because of cancer. Things were different. Next slide. But then I have you all. I have the times where we come together and we've cried, we've laughed, we've sat in silence. This is the good part of cancer. This is the part that's the gift wrapped in barbed wire. I couldn't have met you all without cancer. I don't want cancer. If I could take cancer away, sure. But then it would erase all of this. And this is beautiful. Next slide. A lot of times we're just in survival mode. We're trying to figure out, how do we get to the next? Is it the next test, the next scan, the next day, the next birthday? We're all just in survival mode. Next slide. Everything you are and everything you do aids in survivorship success stories. What does that mean? Every single person that's here tonight, no matter how much in pain you are, no matter how sometimes lost you feel in this journey, there is something that you are knowledgeable about that will help someone in this community. There is something that you have experienced, whether good or bad, that will help someone in this community. And that's what survivorship success looks like. We're all a part of it. It's not just our clinical care teams. It's not just our caregivers. It's us. Next slide. Our medical team, they're unsung heroes, but so are each and every one of you. Next slide. When I tell you that people are like, don't stress yourself out. If you stress yourself out, the cancer will come back. I'm sorry, what? The cancer will come back regardless. I see some people laughing because y'all know it's true, and it's like, how could you not be stressed? How could you not be anxious? How could you not be overwhelmed? You have cancer. That's normal. Everything else ain't normal, but that's normal. Next slide. When I celebrated 13 years, I thought to myself, 13 is such an unlucky number. The cancer is going to come back. I was not fearful, but that entered my mind. An amazing thing happened. It was the best I had felt in all my years post-cancer. And I started thinking, why do I feel so good? And then I remember these 13 ways that I live my life beyond cancer. And they are, next slide, no longer sweat the small stuff. Right now, my house is a wreck. And I keep thinking, oh my God, if something happened to me and somebody had to come in here, and you just can't do everything. And so I'm no longer sweating the small stuff. And That can be anything of feeling overwhelmed that you didn't call everybody back, you didn't email everybody back, you didn't send out all the thank you cards, you didn't do whatever it was. How stressful is it to deal with cancer and sweat the small stuff? So I'm giving you an open pass to no longer sweat the small stuff. Next slide. Cherish the people who really matter to you. Have you ever gotten mad at somebody who didn't show up for you? But yet, Susie May is always there for you. But that one person who didn't show up for you, they're constantly on your mind, you're mad at them. But what about Susie May? She's always there. Cherish the people who really matter to you. Let them know. Write them a letter, give them a card. Let them know that you appreciate them because they are there for you. Next slide. Love the skin that you're in. How many times have you said, you know, when I lose this weight, I'll wear a two-piece. When I lose this weight, I'll wear a bathing suit with no skirt. When I do this, I'll go bungee jumping or I'm just making up stuff here. But the reality is, how many of you are waiting until you feel like your body's better? You lost 10 pounds. Um, you may not have, acne because of medication or whatever, or your hair is still patchy because of treatment. Your skin is dry. I want you to love the skin that you're in now. Tomorrow is not promised. This is our one body that we get right now. Love the skin you're in. Take a moment and say something that you just love about yourself. And not an action, just a physical thing that you love about yourself. Maybe it's your lips, maybe it's your legs, maybe, it's a silhouette. You caught yourself while you were walking by a mirror, and you were like, okay. I still got it. Love the skin you're in right now. Not tomorrow, not when treatment is over, but right now. I love my smile. I love that, Patricia. Next slide. Stop living in the past. This is a hard one, I think. When you have cancer, cancer is a trauma. So what happens? You relive trauma over and over again, especially if you're going in for checkups. You've got to get scans. You're constantly living in the trauma. So how can you balance that with this happened to me? I acknowledge it. I can't escape it, but I also cannot live in the past. You have to find a way. Next slide. Enjoy life. Seems simple, right? This should be so simple. But how hard is it? How hard is it not to worry that the cancer is coming back? How hard is it not to think that ache, that pain, that feeling is the cancer coming back? And when you're so overwhelmed and anxious, you can't enjoy life. But right now in this moment, you're here. And what are the simple things in life you can do right now in this moment to enjoy life? Next slide. Dance and sing like no one is watching. I can't sing, I can't carry a tune, but when I tell you I sing every chance I get, I have no rhythm. But I love to dance, I love music. And how freeing is itself just to let go and release? Find those moments. Next slide. Let go of what's holding you back. You know, so many times it's not about the cancer. Maybe it was something you experienced prior to cancer that you can't let go of, and it's holding you back from moving forward. Not just in joy of life beyond cancer, but just joy of life, period. So, what is that thing that impacted you in such a way? You know, was it someone who hurt you and told you something that traumatized you? How do you move forward? Only you know how to do that, but you have to find a way to do it, whether it's therapy, whether it's church, whether it's just saying it out loud and releasing it. You have to find a way. Next slide. Enjoy every single little morsel. every little kiss, every little bite of food, and have no regrets. Remember, I told you earlier about the woman, she said, but I ate so much kale and I still got cancer. Next slide. Be adventurous. Now, I think there are two types of people. They're the people who get cancer and they want to jump out of plane. Then there are people who get cancer and they're like, I can't eat any chocolate. I can't eat this. I can't do whatever. And then there's me. I'm not jumping out of a plane, but I got to do something that reminds me that I'm alive. And we'll talk more about that later. But find what your be adventurous is. Next slide. It's okay to reflect. So while we're not going to live in the past, it's okay to reflect because if you don't reflect, you don't know where you're going when you move forward. Next slide. Have a pity party. Now, this is the thing that grinds my gears when people say, don't have a pity party. You can't be sad. How can I not be sad? I've got this cloud of cancer hanging over me. But people will tell you, don't be sad. Don't have a pity party. I'm here to tell you, have your pity party. Now it's up to you how long you have your pity party. Whether you cry it out, you let it go, pray it out, you let it go, or you need a little longer and maybe it's 3 months, it's a year or whatever. Have your pity party because if you can't have your pity party, you hold it all in. Next slide. Give back. I know a great foundation, which is a great place to start, whether it's sharing your story, being a peer-to-peer mentor, showing up at events. Um, it feels good to give back, especially to the cancer community. Spot. Be happy. Again, this goes back to enjoy life. Tell me one thing right now that you're happy about. One thing. And it could be a silly thing. For me, I'm happy that the new Beetlejuice movie is now on HBO Max because I miss seeing it in the movie theater. So I'm gonna watch that. The one thing. Next slide. You're capable of doing difficult things. So remember when I said be adventurous? Oh my gosh. Is it Renee? Rena? Gingerbread ice cream is so good. We have a farmer's market here that does it, and I usually get it every Christmas. Thank you for that reminder. I'm gonna get that, and that's what's gonna make me happy this weekend. Um, you're capable of doing different things. So you can't really tell in this photo crop, but I'm wearing Crocs. And I was at the Great Wall of China and clearly wasn't prepared. Another survivor that I was with, she said, there's a lot of walking. And I'm thinking, duh, it's the Great Wall of China. Of course, there's a lot of walking. But she was really fit and she walked all the time. And she basically was like, you're not going to be able to do it. And that's the worst thing you can do me. Tell me something that I can't do. Now, there's plenty of things that I can't do and I won't do. But this, I was like, I mean, I can do this. So let me tell you, we get to the Great Wall of China and in Beijing, and just the walk from the entrance to get the ticket to go inside, I thought was gonna kill me. It was 1,000 degrees. I have a huge purse on my shoulder. I love butter pecan ice cream. It's my favorite. I'm from South Carolina, so I have to say pecan, not pecan, but I was trying to be bougie on this call with you all. But I was like, I can't let the devil win. I got to make it. I got to make it. So I get the ticket. We walk and we walk. And I said, you know what? We're going to separate because I don't want to hold you back. And we walked, and we decided we were going to meet at a certain time. And there were times, and you see those they look like little huts everywhere in there. You could go in, take a break, get out the sun. I didn't have any water with me. I mean, there are people who had walking shoes for hiking. They had those walking sticks. They were prepared. And here I was with my little Crocs melting on the stone. And I was like, I can't do this. And in that moment when I was ready to give up, these little butterflies started flickering all around me. And when I first started telling my story, I always used butterflies as the way to say, like a butterfly, I have emerged from, like a caterpillar, I've emerged from my cocoon transformed. And I started thinking about the women who were no longer with us, who wouldn't be able to even see this. One of the wonders from the world where you could see, from outer space, here I was, little black girl from South Carolina, and I was there. And I was like, you can do it. And I just took my time step by step, and it was so hard. And by the time I got back down, the woman who I was with said, "Were you all the way up there?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm a little behind." She was like, "I never made it. You're capable of doing difficult things." And without cancer, I would have never been in China. I would have never seen the Great Wall. I would have never tried to ascend and come back down. But I'm a cancer survivor. I'm capable of doing difficult things. Next slide. I'm going to skip over the video, Rachel, and go to the next slide. I wear many hats that I love, and they fill my cup. Next slide. But the greatest is probably this modern family that I have. So at 25, as I told you in the beginning, cancer took away my ability to be a mom. And this beautiful blonde who looks nothing like me, our husbands look like they could be related. Her and her husband, they fulfilled their dream after her cervical cancer diagnosis, and they had twins. And she said, "I hate that you did not get to become a mom." And so she and her husband donated their unused embryos to me and my husband. And so this is our beautiful modern family. We're raising the boys as cousins, even though they call each other bro sometimes. And if they want to be brothers, that's up to them, but we're raising them as cousins. And next slide. This is our little story of how it all went down. And we're happy to share these things. And to me, this is my cancer journey full circle. It's cancer did not win. Next slide. Because I have my son, Chayton Lennox Campbell, also known as the Survivor Baby. Feel free to follow him on Instagram. um, he is the love of my life. He is the epitome of everything cancer tried to take away from me. He is my reminder that I'm still here. And he is also a reminder that I don't look like what I went through because of cancer, and that I may not have understood it when I went through it, but I wouldn't thrive and survive if it wasn't for this. And so I want to open this up. You can go to the next slide, but I want to open this up so that we can all just chat. If that's okay, Rachel's the boss, so it's up to her. But I think some of you already have your cameras on, and I just let's chat. Let's open this up full screen, and
Yeah.
you
Do you want
know,
to catch up on the chat or do you want me to catch you up?
yeah, I'll catch up on the chat. You can take the
And,
slides down,
okay.
and
Feel free to use the chat function or you're welcome to come off mute as well. We have a
yeah,
couple.
just jump in. Baked lemon pound cake in the morning. Yum. Oh, your son got accepted to the Navy officer program. That's wonderful.
Um, I'll go first. So I'm
Awesome.
Tina Starling. I'm joining from Tomball, Texas, right out of Houston. But Tamika, I met you years ago through Tiger Lily.
Yes.
So we were connected. I've been following your story and journey ever since I met you. And, you
Mm.
know, even though distance separated us, I still spied on you a little bit, like, I gotta follow her because I just don't want to lose the connection. But, you know, when I saw your son come across the screen, I was just like, oh my God, that is so beautiful. One of the things that you were talking about, like, don't wait to do something.
Mhm.
So I had breast cancer 2009, had a mastectomy. I just never felt comfortable wearing a bathing suit again. Like I knew it was going to be different. I haven't had the reconstruction surgery, but over the summer, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. You know, I kind of created my own little pocket to put in, you know, the little
Good for
prosthetic or
you.
whatever. Yes. So, and guess what? A man hit on me. And he thought I was like acting funny. I was just like, I can't tell this man what's going on in my head. But I was like, babe, somebody hit on me and everything must have been, you know, aligned because he
It
just
felt
like,
good, didn't it?
yes, it did. I was like, oh, I still got it. I was like, what took me so long to put on this bathing suit? Now I was covered up, whatever, but it felt good. And I was like, you know what? Never again will I wait that long to do anything, whatever it's gonna be, because you never know. Just got to keep living.
That's what it is right there. You
Hmm.
got to keep living. Rachel, please put that in the chat. You've got to keep living. That's exactly what it, and it feels so hard sometimes, right? Like it's just, this year has been an extremely challenging year for me. My sister died unexpectedly in March. We've had some people from our community pass away, and it's just been really hard. But my sister was the one, she would say it in a different way. She would say, in the Bible, it teaches us as sure as we are born, we are going to die. But that was her way of saying you just have to keep living. And I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for being here and reconnecting. I love that so much. And I'm gonna carry that with me. That's gonna be my mantra for the rest of this week. Like you've got to keep living. I love that so much.
We did have a question,
Okay.
Tamika. Someone said, how do you cope? I think is what we're going for. The chemo is a beast. I feel like the oncologist team is leaving me as it's a battle with my insurance. These 3 months of knowing my cancer exists and I'm fighting to live. So how do you cope?
So, there's some great social workers at Texas Oncology Foundation. If you're not under Texas Oncology Foundation, definitely still reach out to them. They will help you. And it's really hard. There's some really, really great doctors, and there's some really not so great doctors. I'm not really supposed to say that, but I'm gonna say it. And the thing is that it becomes overwhelming and daunting. There's some great advocacy organizations, but they're there to help you. And so keep pushing them to help you because it gets overwhelming and stressful. If you have a caregiver or someone who can speak on your behalf, I definitely would try to get that person, patient navigators, nurse navigators, try to find those like-minded people who will really get in the weeds to help you because that's overwhelming. There's been times when I had to fight my insurance. I even tried to challenge the state of Maryland when I was having some issues, and I lost at every turn. And it was very, very overwhelming. And so it really is to find people who will help you and write letters. Keep a track of everything. Send emails. Don't just call. Sometimes you need to make sure that there's a paper trail. And if anybody else has any advice that's on here, please share. I'm just looking in the chat really quickly. I see someone says, thank you for sharing. I'm looking forward to completing my treatment and my post-cancer future. I love that. Keep looking to the future. He shares, I try to get information, but nothing has been helpful except this platform, which gives me hope. I'm sorry, which part, Kaz, do you want me to share?
I think she's just asking to share if anyone else has had this
Oh,
experience. And
okay.
yeah.
Is there anyone else who wants to share? I got a babysitter for another 30 minutes.
We have a couple comments in the chat if you want to read them, Tamika.
Okay. I think I'm reading this message from Monica. Yeah, is it something I grew up near? Is it something I ate? Is it something, it could be all the things, it could be none of the things. And, I love what you wrote here, Rachel. Forgiving yourself is a long journey. But it is. It's, I wanted to know, what did I do wrong? Um, and for like, I just had so many things that I wanted in my life, so many things that I still want to do. And I remember at 25 just feeling so grown. And then when cancer came in, I was like, I didn't really even have my heart really, really broken. I thought I did, but I was like, I haven't lived yet, and yeah, I was like, this can't be how my story ends. Like it just can't be. Um, and so yeah, it's hard. I'm going back to the chat. Yeah, for me, like I said, the 13 ways, it really was kind of like a love letter to myself and other cancer patients. And then it was an old blog for HuffPost. And then people were like, I didn't have cancer, but I can relate to it. And I just thought, how many of us have these things in our life that are things we know and we forget? So we just need a reminder of these little things on how to move forward, because cancer can make you stuck. It can make you feel small. Whenever I tell people, like, I was so small, meaning that I didn't have the voice. I didn't feel like always standing up for myself. I remember thinking, I've never cried this much in my life. When I got cancer, I was constantly crying, constantly wondering, like, just how did I end up here? Um, and it's just one of those things in life.
Yeah. We have someone who mentioned they keep a journal and bring it with them to all the visits. I write my questions in one color ink and the doctor's answers in another. I thought that was really interesting.
That is interesting. I like that. I'll share that too. I think, yeah, I wrote a lot of stuff down. I mean, you're so emotional, you're so overwhelmed, or even if you're not, there's just so much information coming at you. But I really like that. And now also too, I love doing voice notes. Obviously, ask first for consent. But I find that most doctors are okay with it because it's overwhelmingly so much information, and especially if you're telling them that you're just doing it so that you can refer back to it. Um, but I found that most people are okay with it. And ask for help. You'd be surprised where you get help from. Um, Meaning whether it's your community, people in an organization, just, I know sometimes for some people, myself included, it's hard to ask for help, but it's hard to really try to do all of this alone.
Mhm. We had another participant in the chat say sometimes persistence is the key to getting what you want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anyone else?
And then we have another participant said, talk to the doctor or MA, build a relationship. Texas Oncology will help you. Be open about everything. It's okay to not be okay. Also, they offer help on billing. So, like you just said, asking for help.
And what the other part is, that is so true. It's okay to not be okay.
Mm.
A lot of times we tell ourselves we're okay because it helps us, but we're also saying that because it helps everyone else around us. But in the end, they were like, "Well, I thought you were okay," So you can't win that way. And so there's a bit of vulnerability that comes with sharing that you're not okay. But again, I say to that, how can you have cancer and be okay 24/7?
Mm, true. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time today, Tamika. We
You're so
appreciate
welcome.
everything, all the wisdom you've given us today. We're gonna go ahead and start to wrap
Pleasure.
up. Is there any last minute thoughts you'd like to add?
Just, there's nothing like cancer, and you know your journey, you know your body better than anyone else, and you're absolutely glad that you're absolutely not alone. It may feel like it at times, but you're absolutely not.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Tamika.
You're
All
welcome.
right, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. This is our second to last of our 12 digital dives. So we have one more next week on Tuesday, same time, 6 o'clock. It's our last one. We'll be doing a nutrition segment with our Texas Oncology dietitians, and we'll have a cooking demo. So look out in your email for the recipes so you can grab some groceries this weekend and cook along with us next Tuesday. I also have an exciting something else to add for you guys. If you enjoyed the past 12 Tuesdays of digital dives, then I also wanted to offer you the first opportunity to register for our upcoming virtual experience. It's full of education workshops and support groups, and it's the best way to start your new year. It starts on January 9th. I'll go ahead and put that registration link in the chat now, but you'll also have it in that follow-up email as well. So we will see everyone at 6 o'clock next Tuesday for our cooking demo, and it looks like everyone had a great time tonight. So thank you guys so much for coming. We'll see you next week.